I will say this, there are some things that, and I'm talking physical evidence that was at that house that is, there could have been greater plans as far as getting rid of her, and it's scary, sadistic stuff.
Just yesterday, thousands of people got a BandLab notification that David released a new song titled Rush, but minutes later, it vanished.
It's controversial of the kids. Bye, guys.
They thought the story was over. The internet had already moved on, timelines had shifted, and the tragedy that once consumed every headline started to fade into silence. But then, out of nowhere, a notification appeared David had released a new track called Rush on BandLab. It was live for barely a few minutes before disappearing, almost like it was never supposed to be there. At first, people brushed it off as a glitch, another accidental upload, but then someone listened closely, replayed it frame by frame, and heard something that didn't belong. What they found wasn't just another song, it was a spark that reignited one of the darkest scandals of the year. The sound, the voice, the atmosphere, it didn't feel like music. It felt like a secret that was never meant to be heard. Fans who had followed the case from the beginning knew that voice all too well. It was Celeste's, and once they realized it, everything about David's music began to look different. Before we go deeper into what fans uncovered and why this moment has everyone demanding answers, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications because what you're about to hear might change how you look at him forever.
Yesterday, thousands of people got a BandLab notification that David released a new song titled Rush, but minutes later, it vanished. The song was apparently created on October 2nd, and some people think it was released on accident, and others think it was on purpose.
You can see the person and you can see what they're wearing, something pretty distinctive, and there's photos that I have from 12 hours earlier, a person at the house wearing the same thing.
At first, most people assumed the upload was random, but then a second song surfaced, one called I Never Needed You. Buried in the background was something almost imperceptible, a whisper behind the melody, a soft female voice breathing between the lyrics. The moment people isolated it, the chills hit. That wasn't just a background sample. The tone, the cadence, even the shaky breath before each phrase, it was identical to Celeste's voice from her old live streams. Fans pulled up archived videos, her viral clips, her Ring camera footage from the night she argued with a neighbor, and the match was undeniable. Every frequency lined up. Every pause sounded human, emotional, and alive. What made it worse was that this wasn't a remix or a tribute. It was her voice, spliced into a song released months after her death. To the internet, this wasn't just a creative choice, it was a violation. People began accusing David of taking the one thing Celeste left behind her voice and turning it into content. As the outrage grew, so did the theories. Some believed David had old recordings from when they knew each other.
I can tell you that we did find opiate prescription medication bottles in the house. Now,
others claimed he'd sampled an old video without consent. But the more people listened, the more sinister it felt, because the lyrics surrounding that voice didn't sound like coincidence. They sounded like guilt. Lines like, "Say you love me, then you say goodbye, and I still think about you day and night," read less like poetry and more like confession. Fans started to believe Rush and I Never Needed. You weren't random love songs, they were reflections of something darker. Some even said he was trying to rewrite what happened, turning a tragic story into his version of events. The timing only made it worse. While investigations into Celeste's death were still open, while her family remained silent, and while fans begged for closure, David was quietly posting and deleting music that sounded like a haunting apology wrapped in melody. Soon, people dug deeper into the timeline, and that's when things took a disturbing turn. A private investigator named Steve Feiser.
My gut tells me I have no inside information on this at all, but my gut tells me the way things are lining up right now, I'm feeling this is probably going to be something like an accidental overdose. And they just made a horrible decision after the fact because they didn't want the relationship to be, to get out there, because it would definitely hurt his, career, if not him be criminally charged.
Photo that everyone has been posting lately, it was taken on May the 30th, 2024. Miss Rivas had attended her cousin Esmeralda's high school graduation. In September, she was seen on video fighting with the neighbors at the Lake Elsinore home. So why didn't any family member notify law enforcement that she was safe? Possibly because they were worried it would trigger a CPS investigation.
Who had been following Celeste's case since the beginning, came forward with photos and evidence from the Hollywood Hills house where David had stayed. Among the items was a Build-A-Bear certificate dated April 21st, 2024, just 2 weeks after Celeste was reported missing. The name on it was Esmeralda Celeste's cousin, the same one seen beside her in graduation photos, and who helped run her GoFundMe. That single discovery reignited speculation that Celeste might have been with David during that time, because that same day, David posted a TikTok of himself on a roller coaster at Six Flags, an amusement park that just so happens to have a Build-A-Bear workshop on site. When fans realized the date matched, everything changed. People began asking, did he go there with Celeste while she was still listed as missing? If so, what really happened that day? And why did no one say anything? The timeline didn't add up, and that's what made it even more chilling. Photos from late May showed Celeste attending her cousin's graduation, yet by September, she was gone, her final known footage showing her arguing outside a Lake Elsinore home.
You don't even go to the house.
Hey, bro.
You talk to I'm not Mexican. I'm all the door and you tripping.
Oh my god.
Not because you tripping.
If she was alive in late April and David's Build-A-Bear clue connects them, then the mystery runs deeper than anyone expected. Some began to question the family's silence, wondering if they'd held back information to avoid triggering child services or media scrutiny. Others suspected there were people protecting reputations instead of telling the truth. But while everyone debated online, investigators quietly uncovered more things that couldn't be brushed off as coincidence. Inside that same Hollywood Hills property, police found opioid prescription bottles and farm tools items that didn't belong in a luxury home. The presence of those tools raised horrifying possibilities. Fans theorized it wasn't murder, but a cover-up of an overdose gone wrong. Maybe it wasn't planned. Maybe it was panic. But if that's true, then someone helped move a body, clean a scene, and hide evidence. That's when people started re-listening to David's lyrics with new ears. Suddenly, lines that once sounded romantic took on a sinister tone. When he sang, "I thought we were taking it slow, but you don't want to wait on me," fans interpreted it as deflection, a way of painting Celeste as impatient or obsessive. When he repeated, "Don't want to waste your time," it didn't sound like tenderness anymore. It sounded like guilt. The more fans analyzed, the clearer it became that David's songs might not just be about heartbreak, they might be reflections of regret. The strange part is, if he truly wanted to avoid attention, why upload anything to BandLab at all? Why post a song, delete it minutes later, and think no one would notice? It felt like he was testing the waters, seeing how much he could get away with before people connected the dots. But he underestimated how powerful the internet's memory can be. Once the comparisons started circulating, the situation turned explosive. People began flooding his comment sections with accusations, demanding answers about the voice. Music analysts joined the conversation, explaining that the vocal layer in "I Never Needed You" wasn't digitally generated, it was recorded, compressed, and mixed like a real vocal track. That meant it wasn't just a random sample from a video, it was something taken deliberately and placed with intent. The moral question became impossible to ignore. Why would any artist use the voice of someone who died under mysterious circumstances in their own music? And more importantly, what was he trying to say with it? Critics said it was narcissistic. Supporters tried to frame it as grief or tribute, but no matter how people tried to justify it, the silence from David himself spoke louder than anything. He didn't deny it, he didn't explain it, he just deleted and disappeared, the same way he's done since the beginning of this story. Meanwhile, investigators have still not named a suspect. Police statements remain vague. They describe the cause of death as deferred, which in plain language means they don't know or don't want to say. Fans are left piecing together fragments. The Build-A-Bear clue, the graduation photos, the deleted songs, the opioid bottles. And the longer it stays quiet, the darker the theories become. Some believe David used music to immortalize his version of Celeste, to rewrite her story, to manipulate perception, to soften what really happened. Others think his guilt is leaking through the art, that every lyric is a disguised confession he can't bring himself to say out loud. Either way, it's clear something isn't right. Because you don't accidentally sample a dead woman's voice, you don't accidentally release a song about missing someone days after evidence surfaces, and you don't accidentally tie yourself to a missing person's timeline with matching dates and objects. None of this feels random anymore. The saddest part is that in the middle of all this chaos, Celeste's voice, the very thing that made her story resurface, is now being treated like a soundbite, a viral moment instead of a memory. What once belonged to her has become proof, speculation, fuel for theories. And while the internet moves on to the next controversy, her story still sits unfinished, her family still without closure, her name trapped between grief and gossip. Every time David posts, deletes, or hints through music, it feels like another piece of her truth gets buried under digital noise. Maybe he thinks the silence protects him. Maybe he believes if he doesn't say anything, the world will eventually forget. But the internet never really forgets. And the fans who heard that voice, they can't unhear it. Because once you recognize the sound of someone who's gone, you can't pretend it's just art anymore. In the end, this isn't just about a deleted track or a mysterious upload, it's about accountability, memory, and the dangerous line between tribute and exploitation. David thought no one would notice, that a faint echo of a girl's voice could blend into his music and go unheard. But he was wrong. They noticed, they analyzed, they remembered. The evidence may still be murky, the investigation unfinished, but one thing is certain, that voice changed everything. It turned a quiet case into a public reckoning. It reminded the world that truth has a sound, and sometimes, even when buried under beats and melodies, it finds a way to rise back to the surface. Whatever really happened between David and Celeste, one thing is clear, the songs he tried to hide might be the very thing that exposes what he's been running from all along.